You've seen this plant before. You've probably stepped on it without noticing. It grows along sidewalks, in cracks in the pavement, in packed dirt where almost nothing else survives. It appears at the edges of paths, along fences, in the thin strips of soil that most plants cannot use. Most people pass it every day. Some step on it directly. Others pull it out, only to find it growing back again in the exact same place. It does not need care. It does not need good soil. It does not wait for permission. It simply grows, low, flat, pressed against the ground, enduring pressure, drought, and neglect with quiet consistency. For most people today, that is the entire story of this plant. Something ordinary, something overlooked, part of the background. But for most of human history, that description would not have made sense. Some knowledge was never lost. It was simply no longer needed. In this film, we explore how plantain, one of the most widespread plants in the human environment, was used for centuries, why that knowledge faded, and why it is now beginning to return. The plant in question is called plantain, not the banana-like fruit found in tropical markets, but Plantago major and Plantago lanceolata, two closely related species that grow across temperate regions on nearly every continent. Once you know what to look for, the plant is easy to recognize. Broad leaves, oval or narrow depending on the species. Distinct parallel veins running from base to tip. A low, circular growth pattern that keeps it close to the ground. This shape is not accidental. Plantain does not survive despite being stepped on. It survives because of it. Most plants struggle in compacted soil. Foot traffic, construction, and constant pressure reduce the air and water available underground. In those conditions, most plants fail. Plantain does the opposite. Its roots are adapted to push into dense ground. Its leaves stay low enough to avoid damage. Its seeds travel in mud, carried in the soles of shoes, in the tracks of wheels, moving wherever people move. This relationship between plantain and human activity is not recent. It is ancient. As people traveled, the plant followed. Botanists have traced the spread of Plantago major across continents and found a clear pattern. Where human settlements expanded, this plant appeared. It reached North America, Australia, and parts of Africa alongside European movement, carried unintentionally in soil and on materials transported across long distances. Indigenous communities noticed this. In parts of North America, it became known as white man's foot, because it seemed to grow wherever European settlers walked. The plant was not deliberately planted, but it did not need to be. It had already adapted to life alongside human movement. And that relationship existed for a practical reason. For centuries, plantain was not ignored. It was used. In traditional European herbal practices, plantain was known as a simple, reliable remedy for skin irritation. A person in a field did not need tools or preparation. They needed only to recognize the plant. A leaf could be picked, crushed between the fingers, and applied directly to the skin, to insect bites, small cuts, or irritation. The effect was not dramatic, but it was consistent. And for people working outdoors, that consistency mattered. This use appears again and again across history. Roman writers described it. Medieval herbal texts recorded it. Folk traditions across Europe, in England, Germany, Scandinavia, and beyond, all documented similar practices. Different regions, same idea. A plant that was always nearby could be used when it was needed. Today, we understand more about why. Plantain contains compounds that have been studied in modern research. Some of these help reduce inflammation. Others support the repair of skin. Some form a protective layer over irritated tissue. None of this is unique on its own, but in plantain, these properties exist together, in a plant that grows almost everywhere. That combination made it useful, not because it was extraordinary, but because it was available. For most of history, that was enough. Plantain was also used in other ways. Young leaves were sometimes eaten in early spring when food options were limited. Seeds from related species would later become known as sources of dietary fiber. But these uses were secondary. Across most of the historical record, plantain remained what it had always been, a practical tool for small, everyday problems. And then, gradually, that role began to disappear. Not suddenly, not all at once, but steadily. As cities expanded, fewer people relied directly on the plants around them. As medicine became more specialized, knowledge once shared widely became more limited. And by the 20th century, most of the practical need for plants like plantain had been replaced. Antiseptics, antihistamines, manufactured creams and treatments. They were easier, more predictable, always available. And so, the knowledge faded. Not because it was wrong, not because the plant changed, but because the world around it did. What remained was the plant itself, still growing in the same places, still following the same patterns, still appearing wherever the ground is disturbed and compacted. Nothing about its biology changed. Nothing about its properties disappeared. Only the attention shifted. Today, that attention is slowly returning, not as a replacement for modern medicine, but as an addition to it. Researchers continue to study the compounds found in plantain. Herbalists and educators revisit traditional uses. More people are beginning to look again at what grows around them. What is being rediscovered is not new. It is simply being seen again. And that distinction matters because it changes the way we think about knowledge. The gap between traditional practices and modern systems was not created by failure. It was created by success, by systems that made older knowledge feel unnecessary. But unnecessary is not the same as untrue. Plantain still grows where it always has. Along sidewalks, in compacted soil, in the places where people walk every day. It is not rare. It is not hidden. It has never been difficult to find. What changed was not the plant. It was the habit of noticing. And that is a quieter shift, less visible, but just as real. Because every day, in cities and towns around the world, people walk past something that has been used, understood, and relied upon for centuries, without ever realizing it is there. The plant did not move. Only the attention did.